Here for us on August 8th. Acting Governor Luke is with us, and she'll address you all later. Thank you.
Mahalo, Mayor Bissen. Up next, Fire Chief Ventura.
Aloha. So to give you a synopsis of what we've been through yesterday, as Mayor mentioned, about 6:13 p.m. we were dispatched to a brush fire at Crater Road, up at elevation about 7,000 feet. And when crews arrived on scene, the fire was acre in size and growing rapidly due to the wind-driven conditions that they faced up there. 12 Maui Fire Department resources were deployed initially, and then additional resources that Mayor had mentioned were added to our force to work that evening. The firefighting efforts last night were focused on keeping the fire above milepost 7 on the highway so that it did not impact the homes as much as possible. The mission last night that Mayor spoke about was getting the members of the public who were in the national park out, and that was done in an orderly fashion with Maui Police Department and Maui Fire Department working together. When the conditions allowed us to clear the road, that's when we moved people through the burn area and the fire area when it was safest. This morning we added additional resources like Department of Forestry and Wildlife, HDOT, and National Guard is here as well to support us. These assisting resources are mainly focused on water supply for us. As you know, up on Crater Road, we don't have water supply, and we're supplying water to 5 aircraft right now in various portable water supplies. And so a lot of the tankers and tenders that we're using from all of our partners are shuttling water up the highway to these locations. We have 5 bulldozers on scene. The bulldozers are focusing on creating fire line, mostly in the direction of the homes. That is our priority right now. The last report, we have about a 35% containment on our dozer line, and that I'm sure is growing as we speak. The fire is about 420 acres right now, and it is a fairly small footprint and also on a hill. We have 5 aircraft flying the scene right now, which makes for crowded airspace. However, National Guard is deploying and forward positioning apparatus and their air assets right here at OGG. So in the event that the fire behavior does become more rapid and our perimeter grows, we'll have the ability to dispatch those assets as well. It's going to be 1 Black Hawk and 1 Chinook for that. Lastly, the weather. The weather up there rapidly changes. From last night, weather was very windy, relative humidity was fairly high, and as the day goes on, the heat hits up on Maui, and we get to noon, the relative humidity is dropping. We're seeing more increased fire behavior. And so what that means is we need the community to remain vigilant, because fire behavior changes can mean that the fire is going to change direction on us, change its speed and rate of growth. So we need everybody to just be vigilant and paying attention to the notifications that were mentioned, so that if we need to notify you to evacuate, that you're aware. As Mayor mentioned, as of now, we have no structures that were impacted or injuries. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Mahalo, Chief Ventura. Up next, MEMA Administrator Kailua Hewitt.
Aloha mai kākou. For MEMA, our primary function is coordination and support. And in that regard, we had established the EOC at about 8 o'clock. And when we established that EOC, or activated the EOC, we initially quickly established a unified command presence up on the ground with initially National Parks, Halakala Ranch, as well as fire and police. So that coordinating effort was established early, and the coordination did go very smoothly and efficiently throughout. We did call on partners into the EOC, where we were able to streamline information sharing and gather good situation awareness to resolve or overcome the challenges that we faced last night. And to the morning, that coordination piece is still recurring, and it's going very well. We have established a meeting schedule to receive situation awareness, reporting every hour that we are using to communicate to all of you and to our partners. We have been utilizing all of our technology to also garner all the information, situation awareness that we can use to be able to provide the community and our partners timely and accurate information, and that's been effective for us. Currently, we are, even though fire is making really good progress on the fire, the spread from report to report has kind of remained the same. There is a potential for it to grow in the mid-afternoon, so we are aware of that. And so we have already developing evacuation plans that include us identifying zones to implement effective and efficient evacuation routes out of the zones, so we do not bottleneck and or get stalled in the evacuation process. We have established a threshold or a trigger of time in which the fire progress will trigger a message as well as an evacuation step if necessary. Our notification process, like I mentioned, we have been, our trigger will be a 2-hour trigger. If the spread of fire is expected to hit the residential areas within a 2-hour mark, we have a trigger of notification. If it hits a 1-hour mark, we also have a trigger of notification. We will use every tool in our arsenal to communicate to the public, to give you guys timely information and keep everybody safe. Thank you.
Mahalo, Administrator Kailua Hewitt. Up next, Haleakala National Park Chief Ranger Ari Wong.
Aloha. Just have a few remarks about the national park and our stance. Haleakala National Park Summit District is closed until further notice. The crater fire, as of noon, is burning about a mile from the park entrance in the Summit District. Park rangers evacuated about 200 vehicles early this morning, along with our partners at Maui Police and Maui Fire. We evacuated the Hosmer Grove campground. There were no injuries reported, as Amir said. We are currently evacuating about 12 residents that live inside the park. They're park staff members, and we're just doing that out of an abundance of caution and to take some of the pressure off of Maui Fire to make sure that they aren't needing to access Crater Road at all. Sunrise reservations for visitors that have reservations for Sunrise are canceled until further notice. They can go to recreation.gov and get some more information there. And I think that's all I have. Thanks.
Mahalo, Chief Ranger Wong. Up next, Department of Health Project Director for Maui Behavioral Health Wildfire Response, Trevor Davis.
Good afternoon. This is a tough time. This is, as Mayor Bissen indicated, a lot of emotions come up when an event like this occurs, and it's a repeat of, in a different scale, but it is another fire. It is potentially triggering and frightening. It can be sad. It can be very difficult. What we want to make sure that everyone remembers is that we are a connected community, and we work together to watch out for each other, stick together, and make sure that we're avoiding any kind of difficult behaviors. There are times when these kinds of events can trigger depression, aggressive episodes, increased substance use. It can actually trigger physical illness, and it's all just stress that is complicated because of what has happened previously. So what we want to remind you of from the Department of Health is that there are ways that you can manage this complicated multi-layered stress that's going on for everyone right now. So focus on your daily routine. Do everything you can to reestablish and maintain your daily routine. Stay up to date with what is happening in the media, what you're needed to do and respond to. But when you don't have to be listening to the media, take breaks so that you have a moment to just hold back and not be constantly exposed to the ongoing stress. One of the things that you can do is try and break any kind of problematic situations that come up as a result of this event into smaller issues and try and find just one simple solution to move forward. Make sure that you're making time with your family and with your friends to engage in healthy and meaningful activities where you can. It is important to stay focused on positive coping, making sure you're breathing when you need to, that you're engaging and connecting with nature, that you're listening to music, that you're doing, the stuff that you would normally do to try and cope through the stress of any normal day, but this is not a normal day. This is a more stressful day. Connect with other people. If you engage your support system, you're a lot more effective at managing overall stress that you're experiencing. Practice acceptance and prayer, mindfulness, whatever kinds of spiritual practices you may find beneficial and effective for you. Listen to yourself and what's worked for you in the past and engage upon that. And then try and push back on negative thoughts. It's easy to get into a negative mindset and kind of spin yourself a little bit. So work with other people around you to focus on pushing back on those negative thoughts. If you are in need of any kind of resources, there are a lot of resources available. There are mental health and substance use providers all throughout the community. There are behavioral health clinics in Lahaina, Kahului, Wailuku. There are multiple community providers, especially since last year. There are more and more providers on island that are providing mental health services. And that can be as something as formal as counseling or holding support groups. There are a lot of those out there as well. But just sometimes it's talking story with someone who's able and willing to listen. It's amazing how much someone listening to what's going on in the moment changes things for us. So I would highly recommend using the Maui Recovers website to find different events, groups, and resources that are out there. There is a warm line, which is a support line run by crisis clinicians. That phone number is 808-446-6676 and is staffed by professionals able to provide support to you. And it's a great number to call if you're not sure what the next step or next resource you might need should be. And then, as always, in the event of any kind of mental health crisis, whether it's you or someone around you, there is a crisis line available, simple number 988, just like dialing 911, but 988 is for behavioral health crisis. It's staffed 24/7 with professionals that can help you with mental health resources in the moment and beyond that. So, thank you.
Mahalo, Mr. Davis. Up next, the Honorable Lieutenant Governor Sylvia Luke.
Good afternoon and aloha. Let me just say that we just wanted to mahalo and thank the mayor of Maui County, his staff, MEMA administrator, and Fire Chief Ventura. We were first notified as soon as MEMA activated late last night, and quickly with the county team, the state adjutant general and his team and the various state departments had a conference call late last night to assess the situation and to figure out what the next steps are. Let me tell you one thing. We have very qualified individuals right here just to deal with fire suppression. MEMA director is not just an expert in emergency management. He was a former battalion chief. And along with him, we have General Logan, who has done many, many numerous airdrops to deal with fire suppression. And under the leadership of the Fire Chief Ventura, we have a solid team who can deal with this situation very quickly. And as you have seen, they responded in a way that they were able to contain and control what is happening at the Haleakala crater. One of the things that is really impressive was that what they have done is to do both situations. Whenever we have a fire like this, we have to do not just air support, but we also have to do ground support. That doesn't mean individual firefighters, in addition to individual firefighters trying to put out fires, they are actively trying to figure out and creating fire breaks. And that's why when the mayor mentioned people like Mahipono, Goodfellows, and one of the things you might be thinking about, why would Goodfellows be doing firefighting? It's because they were digging trenches all night to build fire breaks to protect individuals and protect homes. And that's something that these folks with that kind of expertise thought of very late last night. And because of the discussion, personal calls I had with the mayor and his team late last night, they encouraged and they requested that the state issue an emergency proclamation. And through their work, because we wanted to trigger the National Guard, and then allow for resources, money resources, and people resources very quickly, we were able to do an emergency proclamation at 1:30 a.m. That would not have been done without the coordination and cohesive partnership between the state and the county. As we're speaking right now, General Hara and General Logan, who is standing behind me, have issued and have allowed for 2 large helicopters to be deployed from Oahu, and they are arriving as you speak. These helicopters that can drop thousands of gallons in specific effective areas will provide additional fire suppression efforts. That they will not be acting alone. They will be working directly under the leadership of Chief Ventura, because when we're dealing with situations like what we have here, this kind of coordination, this kind of laser-focused effort needs to be done to maximize resources and people power. Again, just mahalo everyone who has been on the ground since late last night. They've been hard at work, especially the individuals who have been fighting fires since basically 6 p.m., 7 p.m. last night. Some of them worked through the night, and we just can't thank them enough. Thank them and their families. Thank the Maui County staff and the personnel. Some of them stayed all night, and we sympathize because some of our staff were there alongside with them, communicating with them. But we just wanted to be here to provide support and just mahalo all of you folks on the County of Maui for your efforts in containing and controlling this recent wildfire. Mahalo.
Mahalo, Lieutenant Governor Luke. I'd also like to acknowledge we have Managing Director Nishita joining us, and again, General Logan, who will be available for questions. I would like to welcome questions from the media. We kindly ask that you kukua in raising 1 question per media outlet. You are welcome to ask additional questions after all the media outlets have exhausted their first question. Today I'm going to start with our Maui-based reporters, so we'll start with Wendy.
Thank you. I wanted to know if you guys have determined a cause. There were reports of fire trucks in the area 2 to 3 days prior. Was this a reignite from a previous fire or something new?
Repeating the question is, have you identified the cause and origin of the fire? Fire Chief?
Thank you. So yesterday we did assign an investigator to this incident, and at this time that is unknown. There's multiple factors that were going on and different activities that were going on the hill. that we're looking into to see if it was. And we also have to interview some of the witnesses that were in the area and the 911 callers to see what they actually saw. The wind was so strong up there, the fire moved so fast, it's hard to tell if it was outside or inside of the same area.
Thank you. Chivo.
Is the primary wind direction still moving southeast?
The question is the primary wind direction still moving southeast?
Yes, the wind speeds and wind direction is to the southeast, and in our last weather report, we'll continue to move in that direction.
And any rain in the forecast?
I believe there are supposed to be scattered showers. Actually, there's some precipitation up there right now. It doesn't make it all the way over to the fire. It remains to be seen, but the report shows scattered showers throughout the afternoon.
Thank you. Ali'i.
There's a portion of Kekalike Avenue that's one lane because it's under repair. Some residents are concerned about it, so if there were evacuations, how would that be handled?
There's one portion of the road near Kekalike that is under repair. Some of the residents are concerned about that. Is there any update regarding that area?
Thank you for the question. We are trying to stay ahead of the evacuation piece, which means that we want to be able to notify and evacuate in zones to effectively overcome one-lane closures. So we are looking at all the different routes and developing the plans as we speak. We think we have a good general plan moving forward, but we'll take that under consideration. Once again, it's going to be the early notification and the early evacuation, if that's necessary, to have an effective evacuation route. Thank you.
Mahalo. Nikki?
And then for Nima, if the evacuation should happen, does a notice go out via cell phone, social media, signs?
The question is, if an evacuation should happen, how will people be noticed of the evacuation effort?
Yeah, so if there's a need for evacuation, like I said, we're going to follow we have a kind of 2-hour or a timeline in evacuation notifications. So that first notification at 2 hours will be via MEMA alerts. So please, everyone, sign up for MEMA alerts, as well as the full power of the county comms to use every tool to notify the public. If it gets to the 1 hour mark, then we will be using WIA, which is geofenced technology via cell phone, as well as the EAS, which would be via radio and television. If there's a need to use the siren system, we would use that as well.
Hi, Cami.
Hi. Whoever would like to take this one, but it seems like there's a lot of coordination and action taken very quickly after this fire. I was wondering if someone could speak to lessons learned from a year ago and what things have been put into practice that you guys are able to use for this fire and going forward with fire season just starting.
There's been a lot of quick action to these fire responses. Is there anything that we have learned from prior experience and taking into our response to these fires? Who wants to start?
I guess I'll start and maybe we'll all contribute to this. So the first thing I think I would have to point out that was different from last year's, we have different staff in many positions, and as mentioned by the acting governor, our MEMA administrator, Amos Lonokailua Hewitt, is a former battalion chief, has handled many fires in his career, and has a different set of experiences and approach that we can all learn from as the county. Many of the staff that were at MEMA have also moved on and have been replaced, and many of those replacement employees are also former firefighters. So there's a different energy and coordination that happens among people with that familiarity of what I witnessed last night at the EOC. Just a different cadence, a different rhythm. I'm not quite sure how to explain it. Just synergy. I think maybe somebody used that word earlier. One of the big pieces that was happening last night over other instances before would be the situational awareness. There's a different approach to the use of technology and the use of shared information. We obviously were not dealing with communication devices breakdown like we did before, and that's a really huge piece that cannot be understated. I mean, we were actually able to talk to each other, those in the field and those at the EOC. So those are some of the obvious ones that I can point out, but I think the number one thing that jumps out for me would be that situational piece with, again, a team of folks that train in this kind of area. But maybe, Chief.
Thank you. So, like I said earlier, the function or the primary function of MEMA is to coordinate and support. It's my perspective that for us to overcome any kind of disaster, any kind of emergency, is we have to do it together, plain and simple. So my role and my perspective is that I'm looking to partner with anybody and everybody that can help us resolve the situation as quickly as possible. So I'm reaching out to partners continuously, ones that I know, ones that I don't know, to gather information, to understand the resource capability, to understand any kind of coordination piece to support the incident overall. That would be my perspective and my role as the MEMA administrator. I also believe that through my career, we've been able to establish really good relationships with all of our county partners that I call upon today throughout the state, both private, nonprofit as well. We call upon all of those partnerships that I've just kind of built relationships throughout my career, and we'll call upon them to assist and support the coordination. Thank you.
I'll just add to that every single one of our fires is different, and what we're dealing with last night and today is much different from what we dealt with on August 8th. So we have different sets of resources available to us, but it's really all about relationships, partnerships that we've established as a department and as a county that are going to help us provide that surge capacity when there's a larger event. So we'll continue working on that.
We'll do one more round of questions. Chivo?
I know that there are no HECO representatives, but they have started their PSPS program. I got a phone call yesterday from someone in Hawaiian Homes. Their power was out and didn't know if that was a test or if that was an actual rolling blackout or whatever. But have you heard whether or not they're planning or ready to exercise their PSPS program?
So the question is regarding HECO's PSPS program. Do we have any awareness if the program is effective now or if it's going to be starting soon?
Thank you for the question. So I don't want to speak for HECO, but the HECO is in our EOC today. We have been coordinating with HECO in the development of our county plans regarding PSPS. I'm not sure what the power shutoff in Hawaiian Homes was caused. I know that for our situation, there was a request for a power shutoff in Upper Kula, and that came from the incident commander. But regarding PSPS, there's still some things to develop for sure. We are engaged with that partner with HECO and in training to try and improve the way we collectively respond.
Wendy?
This is also for the director. You had mentioned a potential to grow in the mid-afternoon, the fire to grow. What are the conditions that would attribute to that? Are we expecting higher winds this afternoon, or what's the statement?
As mentioned, there's a potential to grow. Is there any factors that we should be aware of that might cause the fire to grow?
So as the day goes on and the island heats up and the temperatures rise, relative humidity drops, and winds pick up, all those things contribute to more active fire behavior. And those are all things from 6 o'clock in the morning to noon that almost always change in our island. It also changes the wind direction throughout the day. We'll get downslope winds in the evening, and then it'll predominantly go back to trade winds during the day. So you have a fire that may be moving downhill at night and then sideways during the day. So those are shifts that we have to plan for. And BMO was able to do a spot weather forecast to try to give us some accurate weather up there on the hill to predict that.
We can take 1 or 2 more questions. Nikki.
What are federal choppers able to fly at night, or if it's still not put out by this evening, is there any?
The question is, are federal choppers able to put out fires during the nighttime?
Thank you for the question, and aloha. We normally do not conduct external load or fire suppression operations at night because of the inherent hazard. They will, however, they are postured to remain here on Maui so that there's a shorter response time as the fire suppression activities reconvene in the morning.
Thank you. Cami.
I was curious if there's any new technology that's being used, or any new equipment, or anything like that that will be able to be used not only for this fire but going forward.
The question is there any new technology or equipment that's being utilized within this fire?
Yeah, so we are exploring all types of technology, looking at different sensors, cameras, evacuation software, flight trackers, mobile apps. We are looking at all of it, yeah, we've utilized a lot of those things last night, and it helped the efficiency of information sharing and situation awareness.
Can you be specific?
I'm not sure. Well, one of the evacuation softwares that we are utilizing, we are seeking to procure. We've had some test runs with that. Don't want to disclose the name of the vendor at this point, but basically what it is an evacuation software that allows us to zone and notify the public through these zones for, once again, efficient evacuation with push notifications. It allows us also to model the community evacuation times based on one-lane road closures and or power lines going down. A flight tracker, I forget what the actual title of the technology is, but it monitors the air flight patterns of the helicopters, which allows us to identify the movement of the helicopters as well as identify the perimeter of the fire. We're looking at different sensors regarding flooding in our reservoirs and in our streams, as well as cameras to we utilize the cameras that we do have. We look to increase that capacity with more cameras in the field. We're looking at HECO with our partnership with them. They provide weather stations for us to evaluate those microclimates to help to come to better decisions. I think the plan moving forward, and we also are working on that, is how do we integrate all these technologies into one operation center that we have that at our disposal. That's in motion as well. What we have and how we mobilize all of those technologies is working for this kind of level event, but we look to improve how we bring in all those technologies. Thank you.
I'll also add, we put out a pretty good press conference earlier this year about the N5 sensors, and those are our partnership and with Hawaiian Electric we're using their infrastructure to mount things on their poles and such. That agreement took some time to get done, but that's done, and we are planning to mount those by the end of July. And so that's some of the technology that will be in place. And if you just recall, there's going to be 2 strands set up. One is going to be over Kihei, and one is going to be over the Ukumehame to Olowalu area. So that'll give us some early notification of fires, and that's all day and all night notification. recommendations they can give us.
I can take one more question. Ali.
What's the situation if the fire gets near homes, as far as, with fire hydrants, because water is scarce in Kula? So what would that look like?
Given the situation that water is scarce where the fire is currently located, what is the approach that we'll be utilizing?
So, great question. In this particular case, we've deployed more water tenders than we probably ever have on a 400-acre fire. And so as this fire has potential to kind of move around, then we'll be able to deploy the resources to impacted areas. Of course, right now the goal is to keep it above the milepost 7 and not have it come down the hill. So the dozer lines are concentrating on that side of the fire so that hopefully we don't have to impact the homes.
Mahalo nui, this formally concludes our press conference.